Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. If you have found this podcast on YouTube or one of the podcast apps or anywhere else, we thank you very much for tuning in today. This is the podcast that is dedicated to all things night vision, thermal imaging, night hunting, coyote, hog hunting, you name it. On the show, we're going to talk about it, and this week's show is going to be no different. I am Jason Robertson. I'm the owner of Outdoor Legacy. We are a full-time thermal and night vision dealer, and I have got my co-host who sits here every week and is somehow named himself to be the executive producer of this show. And I don't know what that title means, but I'd like to fire him, but I think that title is pretty big. So I don't know if that's I don't know if I can fire him. I might have to take some kind of vote or something. I'm not sure, but Mr. Hans from the Hans East Texas YouTube channel. How are you, sir?
That title means you can give yourself a raise anytime you want to. You know that, right? So
well,
you have the power.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
It's just
don't add any zeros to the end. That's what I don't.
You just have to approve the budget every year. So I just kind of sneak in a raise somewhere and hey, we need more toilet paper for the studio or something.
I'll tell you what. More. You can get 2 more boxes of ammo.
There you go. Well, it is good to be back again this week. I'm going to tell you. It has been hot hunting out there. I've had a lot of people talking about the pictures on Instagram where I am a sweaty mess and dragging hogs all over the place. And, there's a picture of me and a hog, and people say it looks like two sweaty hogs out in the field.
Two sweaty hogs.
But, man, is it too soon to say it's ready for fall? Wearing a long sleeve shirt.
It's not too soon for me.
It is
I'm ready
nasty.
about May, so,
Yeah, down here in Texas, East Texas, we've had so much rain that a lot of people hadn't been able to cut our fields here at my house. Just from all the rain. And there's a lot of people that have cut, but a lot of the places I'm hunting have not been cut. So dragging hogs is tough. Dragging hogs in waist-high grass is the worst. I cannot think.
Worst. And you can't even see where you're going.
Can't see where you're going. It's 95% humidity, and you just hate life. You're really wondering your career paths at that point when you're out there.
It's not good.
No, it's not good.
I'll tell you what, I've been suffering. I have not had many hogs once it really got hot this year. And I kind of think back, I think it kind of gets this way every year. And I know what part of the problem is. I say problem, it's a good thing. My fields aren't getting torn up, but I'd like to shoot some hogs. But then again, it's really hot and humid every night.
Oh, yeah.
But I have not had many, and I know what part of it is. We were riding around, my son and I, and checking for army worms and stuff in our pasture the day, and my 6-year-old little boy goes, "Daddy, our corn feeder is knocked over and laying on the ground. We got to go fix that." And I'm like, yeah, the cows got into it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't really want to go over there and fight the wasp nest. And so I do. I need to get the corn feeders back up and get ready for deer season. And as soon as I start running those feeders, I know that I'm going to draw those hogs up out of those bottoms. And right now they're laying low back in those hardwood bottoms and stuff where it's wetter. And I don't know. I'd like to say it's a little bit cooler, but it doesn't feel cooler when I go back there, but at least maybe they're not in the sun. So,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
This is being recorded in August, and I was out last night, and it feels like August up here.
It's bad.
It's bad, but hey, we are happy to be back again this week. We've got a couple things that we're talking about. I want to invite everybody to hang on until the end of the show. So this is a show where we talk about a lot of things, and obviously we talk a lot about hunting, a lot of personal stuff. We bring our wives and family on, but I had something really happen to me about 10 or 11 days ago that changed my life, and I don't want to say that just flippantly. I bet you didn't know I knew that word, but it has changed my life. It has been something that I've had a lot of joy around, things that I've had a lot of struggle and pain around, some sleepless nights. So I want to invite you. I know that y'all are like, what the heck is he talking about? What the
Everybody right now just fast forwards to the end.
I know.
They skipped the whole show.
But I want to invite everybody to hang on to the end of the show to hear what I have to say, because it's important. It's important for everybody out there that's doing what we're doing. It seems like I've had a lot of things happen. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff for the last, I don't know, a couple of years. I've had some eye problems. Jason knows about all the struggles that I have that I've had to deal with. And
a lot of this all stems from hunting too much.
yeah, I don't think so, but it's just.
I do. I do. Looking through thermal scopes is burning his eyes out.
No.
That's my excuse.
No.
I don't think the doctor thinks so, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
Exactly. Well, anyway, stay tuned. But what we're going to talk about right now, and this is something that I don't think we've really ever formally discussed. I think we may have made some offhand comments about this topic, but we're going to talk about what you see on social media and on the internet with video comparisons. And when we say video comparisons, it's usually side-by-side videos from two different optics, whether the optics are opposite manufacturer brands or different manufacturer brands, or the same manufacturer brands but different scopes. We're going to talk about all of that. And really, is that a good source of information? Because we have a lot to say. And I'm going to say, Jason, before I kick it over to you, when I see these, and it's very common, it's rampant in the internet of people wanting to do, and I want to say before we get into it too, a lot of this is done just genuinely because they want people to be able to see side-by-side video. There's not a lot of malice to it. But also there are some things that you need to keep in mind. So anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going to let Jason talk about video comparisons. And is that something that you should rely on when you're making your decisions for thermal scopes?
Yeah, one thing we want to do on this show, I think our regular listeners know this. If you're a new listener, you just, surfed on here, I want to see what this is about and what we've got to say. We have tried our best for we're 170 something episodes. So, over 3 years of doing this show every week. And, we do a lot of scope reviews. We talk about a lot of, again, like Han said, personal stuff, our hunting stories, our whatever's going on. And I know sometimes that's boring to some people. Other people find it interesting. But we try to bring you information that we find that is helpful, might help you at some point in your night hunting, experiences, and that also revolves around purchasing scopes, making decisions, and kind of our motto at Outdoor Legacy is taking the confusion out of night vision and thermal, and we use the late night vision show was Hans and I try to do that, and we give this free information to people that we hope does help you. And so that's what we want to talk about here. We want to be sure that, when you're doing your research online, which is a great place to do research. I mean, you found us. I mean, you found the Late Night Vision show. So we don't want to say everybody on the internet is bad except us. By no means. There's lots of great information, a lot of very experienced hunters and people who can give you a lot of good info. But sometimes when you don't know something, you don't know if something is biased or true or being misrepresented or, intentionally or accidentally or whatever. Right, and so we want to talk about these video comparisons. And I want to be clear on something. Hans and I have done these ourselves. I mean, we have tried to compare optics, even optics. I mean, very recently, Hans put out a video comparing just the upgraded model. So two models, like, version 1, version 2. Mm-hmm. And it's just a simple, side-by-side video. And it, number one, I don't think that it did justice to the new scope. And we're going to kind of get into some of that. And then it also just causes all these flame wars. I mean, everybody gets all upset.
Everybody has an opinion.
And if you read, everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
And then you read the comments and you don't know what to believe. And so
it makes it worse. It absolutely makes it worse. And I think it leads to more questions, and we're going to get into it. But Every time I see these video comparisons on the internet, I cringe inside because I mean,
and then I get my popcorn and I go to the comments.
Yeah, go to the comments. But because you just think about all the people that, there are people out there buying thermal scopes that they're not paying attention to this stuff every day, all day like we are.
Sure.
And if you're listening to this show, you're probably one of those people like us that are into it, and all day, every day, you're looking at social media stuff. You're in what we call in the community. Well, there's a lot of people outside the community that are buying scopes. They go to one forum or one section on Facebook or something, and they say one video. They don't know the industry to know what to look for, or if there's bias, creator bias, or if there's, what is the motive behind the video, or are these scopes that should be compared to each other? And they're making a decision based on something they saw that really shouldn't be done. So there's a lot to consider when you see stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And Hans said, if you're watching this, you're probably into it. Maybe you're not. Maybe you surfed on here and you just found this, but you're at least trying to do your research. And I always say, don't do your research in just one place. I mean, look around online. I mean, watch multiple videos. You may get differing opinions, and some people are like, I get more confused. Okay, well then eventually you're going to need to stop. Because you don't want to get yourself wound up in a knot. Stop. Find the dealer that you trust, whatever that source of information is, and say, hey, this guy right here, I think he knows what he's talking about. He seems trustworthy. He seems honest. He seems experienced. I'm going to trust him, because eventually you got to do that. You got to trust somebody.
Right.
And, so with that said, I want to talk about a little bit of kind of why we're saying these video comparisons are unfair. I want to just lay a few things out. So I'm going to give an example of an optic that I'm not even going to name the optic. This was something that happened over a year ago with a video. I don't know how long ago it was. It was a video that Hans and I put out of, again, one model 1 versus Model 2, side by side. And we weren't trying to do anything. We to be honest with you, we actually said, we made the point not trying to sell more, of the new model, saying we don't think there's that big of a difference. Yeah. And
we were doing the opposite. Yeah, we were doing the opposite, and we had two, and these were optics that should have been compared to each other. I mean, naturally comparable.
Yeah.
And we were saying, hey, the older model, unless you feel like you need the new model or you're just itching to buy something, there's not a huge difference in the new model and the old model. And man, people were like,
it caused a firestorm.
People were upset, and we were like, I guess more on the side of the consumer, protecting the consumer's investment and stuff. But yeah,
everybody was upset. I mean, we had guys who didn't own either one of them. And the comments are, and I'm getting emails about this.
Yeah.
Clearly the new model is better. Clearly the old model is better. And they're trying to get to us and I'm looking at it and going, I'm studying this. I really don't see a big difference. I could make a case for the new model being a little better, but not wildly better. And it's just, everybody has an opinion.
Right.
And it doesn't do anybody any good like these videos. I'm not saying everybody's opinion. It was just a mess.
It was.
And it's just an example of, we got accused of intentionally, making the new model not look as good as the old model. Like, wow, we're selling them.
We'd want to sell.
We do that.
We want the new model to look so great that there's no. You couldn't say that there's not a difference. We want it, but that's not the way it turned out.
There wasn't.
Yeah, there wasn't.
That's not the way it turned out. And so with Hans's, so I want to take that step.
People thought we were bashing
the
the manufacturer is what happened.
They did. Yeah. That's right, and we weren't. No. So yeah, that's exactly right. So a lot of people were. And the manufacturer wasn't upset because they know us well, but a lot of people were saying, y'all are doing this trying to make the manufacturer look bad. Their new scope or their new model's not any better. Well, what are you talking about? Yeah. And so with that was we did every single thing we could to just show it what it was, and it didn't go over well. Now, The second thing you can run into is sometimes these video comparisons aren't fair, or it's not good because one scope might actually look a lot better through, I'd say almost every scope looks better through the eyepiece than it looks on video. Okay. Now there's some exceptions. There's a couple scopes on the market, by a notorious brand that sometimes actually look better on video than they do through the eyepiece, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
But that can be a problem. And then you can have the issue of maybe they both look really good on video, but one scope, the video of one scope just looks a little bit better, a little truer than the other. So it's very hard. And I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret that nobody wants to talk about. And that is we could take two identical optics and pull them out of the box, put them side by side, record a video off of both of them, put them side by side, and they might not look identical.
Right.
I mean, they could, and they're going to look very similar, but these are just, there's a lot going on here. These are electronics. Yes, we think everything is identical across the board every time, but there is sensors, there's lenses, there's a lot of things going on. There could be a variation that's something, we as users can't see, but
Right.
it just doesn't record quite as well. So you got to be very careful. And then the third one, the third option here is when it gets really bad, is when there's some nefarious bias, intentional, some things that are done where you're trying to make one optic look worse than the other, and that is very, very easy to do. There's no question. You can hand me a $9,000 scope and a $3,000 scope, and I can make that $3,000 scope look better. I mean, it isn't hard. You can do it in 5 minutes. And I'm going to let Hans, I think he's got an example of that. I'm going to let him talk about that in just a second. But, I also want to say, before I forget this, I was going to bring this up later, but something that is also a mistake, I was thinking about this when we're talking about comparing, two similar optics, is when you're doing these comparisons and you want to be fair about it, you want both optics to look as close to the same as you can, meaning the brightness, the contrast. I don't want, one to look totally different. It's really not fair. One's a lot sharper than the other. So you want them to be, in focus and all those things. But there's also some confusion, and this goes back to every optic being a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I have seen where someone will say, this video is unfair because you have this, and let's say that you're comparing this, same manufacturer, two different models, or an upgraded version. They'll say, well, you got the brightness on 10, the contrast on 12 on this one. Over here, you got the brightness on 8 and the contrast on 11. Well, that's not fair. Well, here's the thing. That could be.
Right.
That could be intentional, or it could be accidental and they didn't know well enough. But also, as crazy as this sounds, when people will ask me all the time, hey, what do you run this scope on? You run this, contrast and brightness. I go, it doesn't matter what I run it on,
Right.
because every one can be a little bit different. I can take two identical scopes out of the box, put the brightness and the contrast the same, look through them. They could look the same, or they could look a little bit different.
Right.
So you've got to also try, if you're trying to do these comparisons, even if it's just for you and your buddy out in the field, yes, I would start with your settings the same. That's a good, that's the baseline. But if you look through it and they look really different, then you need to start manually playing with them. Right. But anyway, going back, Hans, I want you to, kind of bring this issue up that we saw a couple years ago.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, I remember watching a video on YouTube from a guy.
Are you going to say the brand before you say it?
Yeah, it was. Well, I have to, because it was an ATN Pro staff member who's got a fairly large following on YouTube. And something popped up on my YouTube feed that said, hey, there's a video comparing, I forgot which scope it was 2 years ago, the ATN something. Thor, whatever, versus the brand new Pulsar Thermion, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to check this out. And man, the video really upset me, I thought the video was good. I thought he did a good job producing the video, but it was really, when we talk about creator bias, you have to look at, first of all, this is an ATN Pro staff person or whoever. I mean, think about any video comparison. If Ford
is reviewing a Chevrolet,
right,
what do you think you're going to see?
Even on
or vice versa.
Even on social media or on the internet, if you see somebody putting up video comparisons, well, that means they have two thermal scopes at one time. Most people don't have two thermal scopes, so either they are a dealer, they work with a dealer, they're a pro staff with a manufacturer. They're creating this content to help typically sell scopes. There are some cases where guys got two different scopes that are similar and they want to just put it up to see what it looks like and genuinely doing it just to help people out. But most of the time, there's some motive behind it. So I did, I looked at the video that the ATN Pro staffer made. To me and to a lot of people in the comments section, he had the scopes manipulated in a way where he obviously made the Pulsar scope look really bad. You could tell he didn't refresh the screen, didn't renuke the screen. The contrast was bad. It didn't look like it was focused. Didn't look like the bright. It just looked like everything terrible on to make it look bad. And in the video, he made this ATN scope look better than the Pulsar scope. Well, his argument was, well, hey, look at this ATN scope. It's so much less expensive, and the picture quality's, in my opinion, and the way what he tested and what he said in his opinion, the ATN scope was a better buy. I'm gonna tell you, he got lit up in the comments because
it got shared all
everywhere.
Over the internet. Yeah.
I mean, it was not good for his credibility. It just shined a spotlight on the fact that he was an ATN Pro staff putting out a video comparison against a competitor, and
right.
it didn't end well for him in the comments. And like you said, get your popcorn and sit there and just enjoy all the read material. But you've got to look at that kind of stuff, of why. And think of yourself, why is this person putting out this video? What purpose does it serve them? And us too. We put out videos, we put out content, not just because we love to do it. We're in the business, at Outdoor Legacy to sell scopes. We do it to help people make decisions. And so we're not naive to the fact of why people are doing it, but really be cautious whenever you see that type of stuff and understand, like so many of you already do. I know we don't have to tell our listeners this because our listeners are the first ones that'll go call somebody out on social media because of doing something wrong like this. But you really got to question why these videos are being put out, these side-by-side comparisons videos are being put out.
Right, and another issue that I've seen over the years is when an end user with no intentional bias at all, I say bias, or motive, I should say, no intentional motive to make anything look bad, he'll put two videos out side by side, and he'll compare two totally different scopes. I've seen this several times. Mm-hmm. He had a really nice $3,500 scope, and he bought him a new $5,500 scope, $6,000 scope. Man, I'm going to go show the difference. Well, why? I mean, it's not really. It's not fair.
Right.
And then you get all of this confirmation bias from comments and users that they want to believe that their optic is the best. So the guy who owns this $5,000 or $6,000 scope, all those people go, yeah, see how much better it is. Then all the guys that own that $3,000 scope go, oh my gosh, why in the world would anybody pay twice as much for that? Because I look at the, so it just gets to be a big mess. And I think what it all boils down to is, you've got to trust where this information, where these videos are coming from. Because again, even with the best intentions, it can still be misleading. Hans and I have never done anything to intentionally mislead anybody in these videos. Like we said, the one that we had a firestorm about was us actually saying the new optic wasn't that much better, maybe just a little bit, and so
we're really cautious, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. You and I are really cautious about doing this stuff now, just because, again, it never ends up well, or it never ends well, and it really doesn't add anything to the conversation as far as which optics are better, being compared on video. If anything, in a lot of cases, it makes the situation worse and more confusing.
Yeah, and I would say this too. I mean, this is a little bit of a different subject, but I would say we can even apply this with just taking the video out of it, but just starting to compare two different optics from two different manufacturers and say which one's better. We've done that on this show back 2-3 years ago. We were doing some of that. And the issue you get into is it's just like I said, when the end user who just compares his old scope and his new scope with no ill intentions, you just start this war, and you start this Ford, Chevy, Dodge debate, and it's people are, everybody sees what they want to see, and people are upset. Yeah, and so even with the best intentions, it just kind of turns into a mess. So here's, I guess, my moral of the story on this. I would say, look at these videos. That's perfectly fine if they're out there. Be wary if you don't know, if you haven't had your hands on these optics. Look at them and say, I don't know, it looks like this to me. Let me do some more research. And again, I would advise, obviously, as we've said, we're always going to say Hans and I would be honored to have your business. We would love for you to give us a call at Outdoor Legacy when you're ready to make that purchase and need that, that I like to say final help on what to choose, but you may say, I don't even know where to start and I haven't watched a video, and that's fine. You can call us then too. We're perfectly glad to help you there, but we would love for you to call us. But if you don't call us, find another good, independent, full-time night vision and thermal dealer that represents all these brands and uses them side by side, that knows what is going to work, and what is not, and what these look like. That's a big deal. There's a lot of people that have seen a lot of individual scopes. I mean, a guy may have seen 10 different thermal scopes. That's a lot. Might have seen 15, but that's not 30 or 40 different thermal scopes. And he hasn't put them all side by side in the best conditions and the worst conditions and seen how they work. So what I would say is, when you get to that point that you're like, I really don't know if I need this one, or again, I don't know where to start, call that dealer that you trust and say, here's what I want to do. And which scopes do I need now? And you get this number down, and maybe you make that call and you say, I'm hung between these two, and I've watched a video and this looks like that. And this, what do you think? Well, sometimes, and this is going to sound really weird to people. This is going to sound odd, but image quality is not the sole reason to make the purchase of a scope, even if the price is exactly the same. Now you're going, what? Why would I ever choose an optic with a worse image quality? And here's a reason. A reason is you're focused on an important thing, but you've put all of your focus there. I had a guy today on the phone that was trying to get me to compare a 2-power scope and a 4-power scope. And it was all about the image quality. That's all. And I kept trying to explain, listen, you're comparing a 1/2 ton and a 1 ton. Right. You can't, you got two different, they're good for two different things. He wouldn't have it. All he wanted to know was which had the best image quality. And I kept saying, well, you got to tell me how you're going to hunt. Well, it doesn't matter. Well, okay, this one has the best image quality. So he goes, okay, that's what I'm going to buy. So then he starts talking about how he's going to hunt. And as you would imagine, it was exactly the wrong scope. And so I'm just making the point that there's more to it sometimes than that. You need to get a scope that, a really good image quality, but it needs to be the right magnification. It needs to have the features that you want. Yeah. It needs to, it needs to, maybe you got a bolt action rifle and this scope's not going to mount easily on your bolt. There's just a lot of factors that play into it. Yeah. So anyway, I'll let Hans have the last word. All I'm going to say is be wary. Yeah. Just watch. And at the end of the day, you need to see, make sure if you can see any bias or why there would be, and then find somebody you trust to really, get on the phone with and figure out what is right for you and your situation.
Yeah, take it all with a grain of salt, but wanting to know the differences and kind of the side-by-side comparison of two scopes is, normal when you're buying. You kind of want to know how they line up spec-wise and all that. But along with seeing some of the videos, make sure you talk to somebody, a dealer that has experience with this, that's used these optics, a bunch, and not just those optics, but a lot of wide variety of different that you may not even know existed. So, but stuff you see on the internet, the social media stuff, be very cautious of it. I would not let a video side-by-side comparison be my final buying signal to go out and purchase an optic. I'd discuss that with somebody else. But that's I think we're just going to wrap that one up.
Yeah, well, so I just want to say, and I've already shamelessly plugged 2 or 3 times, but if you are looking for a thermal or night vision scope, and maybe you know exactly what you want, maybe you have no clue what you want, maybe you've watched a video and you're down between these two, whatever, give Hans and I a call at Outdoor Legacy. It's 877-350-1818. The website is Outdoor Legacy Gear, GEAR, Outdoor Legacy Gear.com. Go there, check us out. Hans and I would be honored to have your business, and it is what makes this show go on. Now, I do want to talk about something important. I'm going to let Hans tell this story. It's something scary that happened late at night. Boogeyman jumped out behind a tree while he was hog hunting. But no, I want Hans to share this. It gives me chills, him telling this story. Kind of a very scary situation, and something that could, happen to any of us. So Hans, take it away.
Yeah, you were really the one that kind of suggested that I tell the story. I thought
really it was important.
I really had no intention on doing it. It's been kind of a whirlwind for me as far, and I'll get into the story, but it's kind of funny because I talked to a guy, a fan of the show, and he was asking about scopes, but he was like, "Hey, are you the one that found the cross on his land?" That's how he knew. That's how he knew me.
The grave
from all the shows that we've done was me finding the cross out in the middle of nowhere on a piece of land that our family owns, and me actually digging it up. So if you want to check out, there is a video out there of me digging up a
grave.
Yeah, grave. This is really confusing a lot of people.
Everybody, we won't give it away here, but it was not a human.
It was
grave,
not a human grave, but it was a grave, nonetheless. So, like I said, today is this is around the middle of August when this video is released. So on the evening of Friday, July 30th, on into the early morning of July 31st, I was hunting a piece of property by myself, a piece of property that I hunt all the time. It's a mile away from my house. It's a road that I'm on just about every day. It's our family. We all live really close. My in-laws live very close. My brother-in-law lives a couple miles from us. So we all live, in the same little area. So I was hunting a piece of property that was in between my house and my brother-in-law's house. Pulled out the gate. Normal night, pulled my truck out. My truck was pulling a trailer, which I have my Kawasaki Mule behind it, and went on down the road. Stopped at a stop sign, and I remember being stopped at the stop sign. It was a 2-way stop, so me and the county road that was coming, directly at me also had a stop sign, and then there's a farm to market road which didn't have a stop sign. So I saw a car looking down there, or coming. So I was watching them. I did see a car coming at me, a truck coming at me with headlights, but he had the stop sign, so I really wasn't paying a lot of attention to him. And as I was about to start turning, because I was going to make the left-hand turn, I got hit. I got front impact, head-on collision.
Head on. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I didn't really see it coming because, like I said, I was watching the car coming to me that didn't have a stop sign on the left. All I remember is just this huge impact and me just kind of getting thrown, tossed around the cab of my truck and hitting my head on the ceiling of the truck. And, being stunned for, I don't know how long I was stunned. I don't know how long it took me to get out of my truck. Obviously my truck wasn't going anywhere. I remember opening the door. It was hard to open the door on my truck, but I remember getting out and then looking behind me, and the guy that hit me, actually his truck flipped. So he had a very tall lifted truck. When he hit me, head on, my truck was almost like a ramp for his truck. And his truck flipped and was completely on its side. Now, we're in a very rural area. There was some witnesses, 3 witnesses that stopped to call 911. But the paramedics, they got there as quick as they could, but it was 10 or 15 minutes before they got there. We had to find a way to pull this guy out of the truck, and we ended up pulling him out of the roof where there was a sunroof. I pulled him out, and he was okay. Luckily, him and I did not have a scratch or bruise on us. And one big detail about the story is he was drunk driving. So I got hit head on. He was probably the speed limit was 55 miles an hour. I assume he was going that speed, but he was drunk driving. The bar had just let out. I was sitting still at a stop sign, and the next thing I know, we're both just stunned, and trying to figure out a way to get him out of his truck, pull him out of his truck, and ask him if he's okay and where he was headed, and he was pretty in shock by the whole thing, and inebriated, so not to say the least, but. I will say a listener of this show, a gentleman, and I'm going to say his name, Officer Hemphill, he listens to this show, and he was the first police officer on the scene. And believe it or not, he ran up and made sure everybody was okay, and just a great young guy, a real young guy. But we live in a small town, but he said, "I know you. You're Hans East Texas. I bought my Pulsar Thermion XP50 because of you." And so it was kind of cool that him and I sat there and waited for the state troopers to get there. But we sat there and talked about hog hunting and scopes, and he was a great guy and really thankful for him. It was outside the city limits, so and not really even in his jurisdiction, but he came out there to help before the state troopers could get there, and the troopers were awesome too. But I'm going to say, a week ago, I probably could not have told this story of being hit by a drunk driver, because less than 24 hours later, I was on the way to Florida with my family to Disney World. And I remember, Jason, I called you Saturday morning. Early, yeah. I'd only gotten an hour or two sleep. I couldn't sleep hardly at all. Called you to and I remember struggling to describe what happened. I was still in shock of what happened, that I felt like I really couldn't even tell the story of what happened. And when I got home that night, the wreck happened right after midnight on Saturday morning. I got home about 2:00 in the morning, and my wife, my brother-in-law, I called my wife, told her what was going on, but I did not tell her the full details other than I got in a wreck and I'm okay. And her brother's on the way to get me. So she was concerned, but she didn't know the extent of what happened. So my brother-in-law came and got me and took me home. When I walked through the door at 2:00 in the morning, obviously, and sat down and told my wife the story, she was very emotional, because of what happened. But I remember thinking, Jason, when I walked through the door and I first saw my wife, Crystal, I wondered for a while, am I dead? Is this an after death subconscious
Right.
experience?
All right.
And I remember thinking right after the wreck, am I dead? Because this wreck was so bad. Our vehicles were totaled, and his was on its side. A big, huge truck that rolled over and flipped on its side. It was hard for me to believe that I walked away from it without a scratch, and without any long-term issues, and it could have ended very differently for me. And I just remember thinking the whole time, am I really alive? When I'm seeing my wife, come through the door, and I'm coming through the door, is this for real, or is this me just like before hopefully I go to heaven or whatever, that I have my last chance to say goodbye or something? It For all of you out there that have been in these types of wrecks, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's probably difficult to understand for some people when you are in a situation where things could have ended very differently. You think about guys and women and men that have gone to war, and they've experienced things a lot worse than I experienced: near death and injury and tragedy, and they come back with PTSD. And I'm not saying that I had that or I have that. I'm very well, I think, getting over it mentally as far as what happened. But man, God was with me. There's no doubt. God was with both of us in that situation, and for both of us to be okay, and all we're having to deal with is insurance and getting that taken care of. We're both very lucky. And I feel bad for what happened to the guy. The situation with him, the legal trouble that's going to cause, the burden. A lot of people are like, well, man, you shouldn't care about that. Well, I do. I don't like it that things are ending the way they are for him, with what he's going to have to deal with. But it probably turned out the best way it could for him, because if I would have been killed, I know that he would be facing a lot worse penalties than he is right now, and so.
And it ended in that he didn't get hurt, you didn't get hurt, and as bad as you don't want something to be happening to him, hopefully this will be his lesson. I mean, you got to hope and pray that this is his strike one, and there's no more strikes. I mean, this is it. He learned a hard lesson, but hopefully that it never happens again.
So all of you hog and coyote hunters out there that are riding around at all hours of the night, people always say that there's only one type of people that's driving county back roads at 2:00 in the morning, and they're usually been at the bar. Well, I mean, there's kind of some truth to that, So be careful out there, y'all. Make sure that drive defensively. Make sure you pay attention. Make sure In my situation, couldn't really done anything different. Really, I wasn't moving at all. I was sitting still when I got hit. But I don't want anybody to have to go through that. I don't want any of our listeners to get in a situation where they get hurt or badly injured or anything like that. But anyway, it's been a very difficult week. Well, I will say this. We went to Disney World for a week after that and had a fantastic time, other than me coming back with a cold. But it really made me appreciate even more than I already did my family, my wife, the fact that I have kids to share great experiences with, to see a lot more silver linings in clouds, and not be upset about small things, and really just thankful to be here and thankful to do another episode and do another show and still go out and be able to hunt. So It's a lot. It was a scary deal, and it's a lot to process. But every day is getting better.
I'm glad you told the story. You know, it is a scary story. I mean, anytime anybody has any kind of wreck that's serious, I mean, obviously it is scary and it leaves you shaken up. But when you took a head-on collision from a drunk driver that, you know, obviously could have instantly killed you, and or at least, you know, it could have hurt you really, really bad. All these things could happen, and you know, you walk away. I think that is definitely, you know, not much short of a miracle, and definitely the Lord looking out for you, and I'm thankful for that as well. And
I've had some trials and tribulations. I'm wondering who I pissed off because many of you know that it's been about 5 years ago, maybe more, when I was out cutting on a tractor with a brush hog and got stung by bumblebees 100 times doing that. And people are like, how did you not die? And I'm like, I don't know. And then just all these little things that have happened, the eye issues that I've had to have done, and the pain of the procedures with my eyes. I got bit by a brown recluse spider not that long ago, which was just dreadful.
This guy is just
came back from SHOT Show with COVID before COVID was COVID.
COVID was cool.
Yeah, and suffered through that. I mean, I just had so many things, but man, I don't know. I just kind of shake it off. I'm like, that's kind of weird. That's bad luck or whatever. But no, that I've actually had really, really good luck, because I feel like I've cheated death several times now.
It makes me nervous. I said, I'm going to go take a life insurance policy.
That was the first thing Jason said to me, was like, I think I need to take out a life insurance policy on you.
I said a big life insurance policy. Yeah. I said, the Late Night Vision show and Outdoor Legacy, we need you too much. Yeah. So I'm definitely going to be calling my insurance agent, seeing what it's going to take to get a policy on Hans.
But I want to end this in some good news for this show, and that being, and Jason, you don't know this because you don't really pay attention to this kind of stuff. On YouTube,
idea where this is going.
By the end of this month on YouTube, we will have reached 1 million views on our podcast. Yes, sir. So
I had no clue.
That's a great.
If you'd asked me, I'd have said 100,000.
I know. It's
wow.
It's to me a fantastic. We've had 1 million views on our podcast on YouTube, just on YouTube. You know, that doesn't take into account iTunes and all that kind of stuff. But man, it's a good deal. That's cool. That feels like a really, really cool milestone to cross over.
Wow, I had no idea. That is an awesome milestone.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I'll say this, and I'll wrap this up. You know, we are thankful that Hans is okay, and that we walked away from that. It really is. And so I guess if there's the moral of the story, and it's number one, don't drink and drive. Number two, be very careful when you're out there late at night, because somebody else might be drinking and driving. And be thankful for every day, because none of us are promised tomorrow. So I think that is a takeaway for all of us, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow, and it can end very quickly. So very thankful that Hans is okay. On the brighter note of those million views, thank you, viewers, for that. Again, that's not our podcast listeners that just listen to the show audio. We do appreciate y'all as well. We would not be here doing this show this week without y'all, without those of you who tune in every week, without those of you who actually choose to do business with us and support this show via Outdoor Legacy, and let Hans and I do what we do. So we just greatly appreciate y'all, and we hope that y'all will keep tuning in. And if Hans doesn't do something else crazy, maybe we'll be here for 2 million views. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see.
Can't promise anything.
Can't promise anything. That's true. Well, we really do appreciate y'all tuning in and listening. We will hopefully, good Lord willing, be back next week with another great episode. If you're looking for your night vision and thermal, outdoorlegacygear.com, 877-350-1818. If you're looking for review videos, if you want to see, the bunch of scope reviews with video out of those scopes. Maybe not always comparing two scopes, but at least one of them.
Yeah.
Go over to Hans's channel, HANSETX on YouTube. You can also find him on Instagram. He posts videos and pictures and stuff there as well. If you like guns and you like scopes and you like seeing pictures of dead animals, you'll definitely like his Instagram page. If you don't like any of those things, then do not click there.
Don't click on it. Don't report me.
Don't click there. No, don't report it. But and you've already found the Late Night Vision Show, but you can go to thelatenightvision.show.com and find all the past episodes and other info there. Yep. So go check that out.
Yep, this has been another episode of the Late Night Vision Show, your place, your one-stop shop for all things night vision and thermal optics related, hog and predator, coyote hunting. We appreciate it. We will be speaking with y'all soon. Stay safe in the fields and keep making them bacon pancakes.